This is the Louie T Network. You are now officially in the lab room. It's that time again. It's that time again to go hard in the off season, cause we trying to win. We gon' go so hard, we don't take no days off. Hopefully one day it's all gonna pay off.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the 2017 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series, where your man Louie T aims to break down all 32 teams in the National Football League's 2017 NFL Draft using our baseball graded scale, single, double, triple, home run. There are no strikeouts here in the Draft Wrap-Up Series, as we cannot tell how these players are going to pan out, and I don't want to discount any of these young men before they get their chance in the National Football League. And so we'll get a score for each and every single player selected in X said team's draft. We'll apply bonuses when necessary, get an aggregate score, divide by the number of picks, which will yield us an overall grade for that team's draft. We'll then move on to the next team in the series picked by you. That's right, you, the viewer out there, are in total control, as this is the You Pick format, or as I like to call it, the Up format. Simply be the first to leave a comment in the comment section of this and future videos in this series stating two things: the phrase next and the team you'd like to see next. Some examples: Lions next, Detroit next, Detroit, next Lions. You get the picture. You don't want to be too wordy. It's a very competitive exercise here we're dealing with. People are getting in fast. You don't want to be too wordy. You want to get in as quick, as efficient as possible. So, with that being said, the next team up in the series is, you guessed it, the Detroit Lions. And this is a team that every year people love to pick the Lions to do big things, and every year the Lions either seem to fall just short of doing something great, or they just kind of tease you with all the things that they bring to the table. But last year they made some moves, including bringing in a new general manager. I thought he did a fabulous job last year of just kind of changing the direction of what the Detroit Lions were doing and kind of giving them a brand new identity as to what they would be doing moving forward. You know, they have the whole Matthew Stafford contract hanging over their head as we speak. But this is a team that I feel like is in a position that if they can rectify some things defensively, linebacker was one of the highest priorities in this draft, as you will see as we break it down. You know, and you sprinkle in some more weapons for Matthew Stafford, whether it be receiver or tight end, all of a sudden, I think this is a situation where we can start to see things turn around for the Detroit Lions. Obviously, they could use another cornerback. They had some issues there last year with some injuries, and Darius Slay being really the only guy to step up for them. So at this point, you look at the Lions and you see a team that has a chance to really do some big things if they just get guys to perform, stay healthy, and you bring in some fresh talent at specific positions. And I think they were able to address some of those needs in this draft. And so let's jump into that draft. We start in the first round, 21st pick overall. Florida linebacker Jarrad Davis is the selection. This was a guy that, I'm not going to lie to you, wasn't on my first round radar when we were talking about first rounders potentially in the 2017 NFL Draft. I overlooked Jarrad Davis. I didn't even have him as a first round guy until probably right around the day before the draft is when I started to really hear his name gain traction as potentially one of the first linebackers to come off the board. Depending on where you assign a guy like Hassan Reddick, Jarrad Davis, for all intents and purposes, was the first true inside linebacker to come off the board. A lot of people thought that that guy would be Alabama's linebacker, and it turned out to not be the case. And so Jarrad Davis, for all intents and purposes, was the first inside linebacker off the board in this draft. Again, depending on how you view Hassan Reddick. But let's jump into Jarrad Davis and why he was one of the first guys selected at the linebacker position in this draft. Size and length. You look at this guy, 6'1", 238 pounds, That's right around the going rate for an inside linebacker in today's NFL. In yesteryear, this guy would not even be considered an inside linebacker. He'd be considered a weak side linebacker. But in today's NFL, the faster you are, the better you are, the more likely it is you can stay on the field all 3 downs. And you're not seeing a bunch of 247, 250-pound guys staying on the field all 3 downs. You're seeing guys come into the league at 227 pounds, 230 pounds, 233 pounds. And to be 238 pounds, that's actually a good size. And I think he might actually be able to put on a few more pounds and still keep his athleticism. Got 33-inch arms to go with that frame. So I think Jarrad Davis is a really solid size for today's inside linebacker in the National Football League. He's a physical guy. That's the next pro, physicality. You watch him come downhill, he comes with shock and awe and violence when he comes downhill. The best play I can give you an example of this is in the SEC championship game versus the Alabama Crimson Tide. There's a run play early in this football game because he ended up getting hurt later on in that game. There's a run play to the outside, maybe the second or third or fourth play of that game from an Alabama offensive standpoint, where he just goes up to Cam Robinson, who was drafted in the 2nd round by the Jacksonville Jaguars, and just absolutely shocks this man. I mean, head, body snaps backwards. Now, Cam Robinson ultimately would push him out of the way, but it was that initial shock and awe that he was able to contact him with that just caught me off guard. And it's that type of physicality that he brings to the table. He'll take on blockers. He'll hit you in your mouth. He's a physical guy at the point of attack, and love that physicality that he plays with. It's a violence that you have to be able to play with at the linebacker position if you're going to succeed. Athleticism. Now, this is why this man has the potential to be a 3-down linebacker. And you don't take guys who can't play on all 3 downs in the 1st round. And so this is a guy that has a 4.56 40. You're talking about 38-inch vert, and you're talking about a 10.9 broad. So you're talking about a guy that at the combine was one of the most athletically gifted, or when he worked out, was one of the most athletically gifted linebackers in this entire draft. Reuben Foster included. So you're talking about a guy that was extremely athletic. You saw it on tape at Florida. There was never a question about his athleticism. It was always, could he just stay healthy? And so that's something we'll talk about a little bit later on. The closing burst is the next pro, though. This is a guy that closes the distance and the gap between he and the ball carrier so effortlessly and so quickly. It's amazing to see this guy run sideline to sideline. It's that type of athleticism that allows a guy like Jarrad Davis to be selected in the 1st round because of the way that he moves on the football field and has the ability to get from point A to point B in such a rapid rate that he's a guy that is a blur sometimes on the football field making plays. He's a technically sound tackler. That's one of the things I really admire about Jarrad Davis, is the fact that he doesn't miss a ton of tackles. He's a guy that's going to wrap up. He's going to break down, get a form, wrap up, tackle, and get guys on the ground. There are so many linebackers who want to shoot their gun downhill. They want to come down at 1,000,000 miles per second, and when they get there, they miss because they're coming out of control. They don't break down. They want to give you a shoulder. They don't want to wrap up. Jarrad Davis is a guy that if he doesn't get you by the waist, if he doesn't get you up top, he's going to get you down by your ankles, but you're going down for the most part when he encounters you. And again, that's something that I can respect. He's good in coverage. One of these guys, and again, that's how you establish yourself as a 1st round linebacker, by being able to stay on the field all 3 downs. And in order to do that, you must be solid at worst in coverage. Well, he's actually good in coverage. He looks for the football. He gets his hands on the football. I can't tell you how many times he was running with the tight end up the seam, locates the ball, and gets his hands on it. He makes plays. There's a play against, I want to say it was Vanderbilt late in that game. That was a tightly contested ball game late. The quarterback tries to fit a seam route down the field. He turns around, deflects the football. It's picked off by one of the Florida secondary members, and that was the ball game. And that's what he brings to the table in coverage. Man, zone, doesn't matter. He's good at both of them. And that's something that the Detroit Lions desperately needed a season ago. They struggled at the linebacker position. Really, since L.A.B's injuries have started to take effect, they've struggled at the linebacker position, and they needed a guy to come in that can play all 3 downs, that can run with tight ends and running backs out of the backfield. Jarrad Davis is going to be that guy for them moving forward if he can stay healthy. 3-down linebacker is the next pro. I don't really have to harp on that because I've already done that. This is a guy that you fully expect to be on the field first and second downs and obvious passing situations on 3rd down. You expect him to be on the field for that as well. And again, you don't draft guys generally in the 1st round at the linebacker position unless they can get it done on all 3 downs. Jarrad Davis, a guy that can get it done on all 3 downs. And finally, he's a leader on and off the field. You hear that now. Again, I can't attest to that. I don't know Jarrad Davis personally. Haven't spoken to anyone that knows him, but just listening to all of the pundits and the talking heads talk about just how instrumental he was in the locker room at Florida. You can see him on the field. That's something I can attest to. Watching him get everyone lined up, him being vocal pre-snap, setting guys up, moving linemen, getting linebackers set and aligned, telling the secondary members where they need to shift. He was very vocal pre-snap and getting everyone set up. And so you can tell he's a leader on the field, and I've heard good things about him off the field. And those are the kind of guys that you want in your locker room, especially if you're going to spend a 1st-round pick on a player of the caliber of Jarrad Davis. As we move on to his cons, I think he could shoot his gun a little sooner. There are times where Jarrad Davis is a little bit too patient. And again, I don't have a problem with patience as long as you don't allow yourself to be blocked because you waited too long. I feel like there are opportunities for him to make more plays on the opposite side of the line of scrimmage if he was just a little bit more aggressive. Maybe a little bit more instinctual is probably the right phrase to use. Be a little bit more instinctual. Shoot your gun a little bit faster. He sees it. He diagnoses it. You need to go a lot faster. Trust your eyes. I think he's one of those guys that wants to make sure. I just want to make sure that this isn't play action fake. I'm not overcommitting myself and giving up the easy pop pass or the easy seam route because I took a couple of false steps forward. Now the tight end is behind me by 3 steps and it's an easy throw for the quarterback. I just want to make sure that my eyes aren't deceiving me. Then I'll take off and try to make a play. And by then, here comes the pulling guard to the 2nd level. Here comes a double team. Now that center or that guard is able to come off that double team and get to the 2nd level and get to Jarrad Davis and maybe contact him before he can make a play. He will overcommit at times. He's a guy that will fly to the, I told you the closing speed is tremendous. He'll fly to the outside. He sees the play going outside and developing. He wants to get out there, and sometimes he'll get out there too fast to his detriment and allow an easy cutback lane right inside of him. And so sometimes that same patience that he plays with when diagnosing the play, I'd love to see him. And sometimes as a linebacker, you much rather overcommit and force a play back inside where you have help than wait too long and allow something to get to the outside where there is no help other than the sideline. So I don't have a problem with overcommitting as much as I do just making sure that you see and keep everything in front of you. Sometimes he struggles with overcommitting on a run play and taking himself somewhat out of the play and giving up some cutback lanes. And then finally, leg injuries in both 2014 and 16 cost him time. In 2016, he missed a good portion of the late stages of the season, missed 3 straight games before the SEC championship, in which he did re-injure that same ankle in that game versus Alabama late in that game and missed the bowl game. So he's a guy that has been injured throughout his career at Florida, and that's something to keep an eye on. But when healthy, he's one of the best in the nation at the linebacker position. And because of that, in the 1st round, 21st pick overall, Florida linebacker Jarrad Davis is it all. He's hit deep. Out of here. It's a home run for the Detroit Lions in the 1st round at a position of desperate need for them. The linebacker position, they get their man in the 1st round. Jarrad Davis, if healthy, is going to come in and solidify that inside linebacker position for them for years to come. You go back to Florida and this Gator defense that was extremely good in 2016 and go pluck another player in the second round, 53rd overall. Florida cornerback Jalen Tease Tabor is the selection. Here's a guy that we scrutinized heavily throughout the draft process because of his slow time at the combine. He turned around and ran even slower at his pro day. He defended himself vehemently. Look, I'm a good football player. Turn on the tape. Forget about the numbers and all of that stuff. Look at my film. It speaks for itself. And I'm here to tell you that I support all of those things that he said. And we'll talk about some of those cons and how that may affect him. But make no mistake about him, he's a damn good football player, and we're going to see if he can hold his own at the next level. But let's talk about the pros and why this guy easily could have slipped to the third or the fourth round because of the lack of speed, but didn't, because the rest of what he brings to the table is so phenomenal. He was still a second-day pick. 6 feet, 199. And 32-inch arms. So you're talking about size and length being his first two pros. That's good NFL size. You're basically saying 6 feet, 200 pounds. That'll get it done every day of the week in the NFL at the cornerback position. Throw in some 32-inch arms and you got yourself a cornerback right there. Acceleration is the next pro. His plant and drive is as good as anyone in this draft. When he sees it and reads it, he takes off. There's a pick versus Vandy. He is an absolute blur on the screen. The quarterback thinks he's got a wide open receiver on a stop route. Here comes Tease Tabor out of nowhere, snatches the football out of the air, and he's running in the opposite direction. That's what he brings to the table. His plant and drive ability is outstanding, second to none in this draft. And that's part of the reason why this guy gets his hands on so many footballs. Outstanding in zone and off-man awareness. So this is a guy that in zone coverage or in off-man is just so adept at watching the quarterback, keying his eyes, but in conjunction with that, keeping his eyes on different route combinations and receivers coming in and out of his zone and zone matching. There's a play against Florida State where there's a high-low combination. He splits the two of them, so it's a beautifully done job of taking the high guy first and then peeling off of him and getting back to the underneath guy. So they run a high-low combination. You've got a corner route running deep and then an out route underneath that. And it's his job. It's cover three. He's got to take the deepest receiver, which is the corner route. He runs with that corner, but he's watching the quarterback all the while, sees that the quarterback wants to get it to the out route. He then turns and pivots, peels back to the out route, jumps in the air, knocks the football away. It is beautifully done. You can't teach it any better than that. Splitting the difference between the high-low combination. And that's what he brings to the table when he's able to see what the quarterback is doing. He digests it so fast that he's able to make plays on the football. And so that's why I think he's going to be a guy that in off coverage or in zone, going to be a huge problem for NFL quarterbacks because of that awareness that he has when eyeballing the quarterback. Tremendous ball skills, 9 career interceptions. I saw him drop one against Florida State in the end zone that he should have caught. But outside of that, there weren't many opportunities for Tease Tabor to make plays on the football that he didn't make. And so this is a guy with outstanding ball skills. Generally, when the ball is in the air, he's looking to attack it as if it's made for him. Plays with extreme confidence. I love the fact that he's got this chip on his shoulder because of the lack of speed, because of all of the rumors and the chattering and whispering that was going on before the combine, before he ran his 40. He knew he wasn't going to run fast, and he was trying to warn everyone prior to the combine that, hey, look, man, I may not be as flashy as some of these other guys. I may not run a sexy time. However, just know I'm a football player. And that was the thing that he kept reiterating throughout the entire process. I'm a football player. Turn on the tape. You will see. And I love the fact that he's got a chip on his shoulder because he feels like he was a first round talent that got pushed down because of his lack of speed. Everything else was there, but the lack of speed pushed him down. And I think he's going to play with a chip on his shoulder. When he gets to Detroit, he's going to come in and want to prove everybody wrong. And I think that's going to aid him in playing at a very high level at the next level in the National Football League as we go to his cons. Lack of speed, okay? It's the elephant in the room. We've talked about it numerous times. 4.6, 240 is what he ran at the combine. He ended up running 4.7 and worse at the pro day. So we'll go with the 4.62 because I saw 4.6 on tape. It's funny because really on tape, you didn't see many guys get behind him. There were some times where I did see guys get a step or two on him, but for the most part, he did a really good job of staying on top of receivers. Now, he's no dummy, okay? He understands that, look, I know I'm not fast, and so I know my limitations, so I'm not going to come up and press guys and get it. He played a lot of off. He did a good job of making sure he kept everything in front of him for the most part while at Florida, and so I don't have a problem with that. Again, as long as you are aware of what's going on and you're able to sit on some underneath routes, plant and drive on the thing. You're not giving up easy completions because you're scared of the receiver in front of you's deep speed. I don't have a problem with him playing off, but the speed is not what you are looking for from a number one corner in this league. And so that's why this guy drops to the second round. But you don't need a number one corner. You have that guy in Darius Slay. So if he can come in and be an adequate 2, you have exactly what you need to get it done in that tough NFC North division. Shoddy tackling. Now, I do not love him as a tackler. I don't think he sees what he hits a lot of times. He's one of these guys that loves to just duck, throw the shoulder, and hope he hits something. And he's definitely a leg hunter, never looking to come square up and wrap a guy up, always looking to cut someone. I think his tackling is shoddy at best. That's something he's going to have to work on. With corners, a lot of times what you see is what you get. Generally, they don't improve. Either a guy wants to tackle and is looking to throw his body around and actually looking to see what he's hitting, or he doesn't. And I just think Teez Tabor is one of those guys that's always going to just throw his body around and not necessarily see what he's hitting. And a lot of guys are just going to jump over him at the next level, and we'll see what happens and if he improves that or not. But right now, he is not a good tackling cornerback. That is for certain. Off the field transgressions. This may be another reason, in conjunction with the lack of speed, that saw him push down to the second round. He was cited for weed while at Florida. Also got into an altercation with a teammate. So these are things that you don't want to hear about, but they obviously happened, and hopefully they're behind him and he's able to move forward. I know people, and I've heard people talk about Jalen Tabor and saying that this guy's talented, but he's a headache and he's not worth the selection. So I'm a little nervous about hearing that from other scouts and guys that are in the know-how and have been watching this guy throughout his career at Florida. But nonetheless, I love this selection for the Detroit Lions. This is a big need. Last year, it hurt my heart to watch them struggle at the cornerback position, especially when big play Slay wasn't in the lineup. They need another guy out there to get it done opposite of him, and I think they may have found their man in the second round, 53rd pick overall. Florida cornerback Jalen Teez Tabor for me is a triple. You want a home run, you got to run faster, obviously, but that's nor here nor there. Bottom line is this guy's a good football player. He told us as much, and the film bears that out, and I'm looking forward to seeing him step onto the field with a chip on his shoulder and go out and play some top-notch football for the Detroit Lions. As we move on to the third round, 96th pick overall, Northern Illinois wide receiver Kenny Golladay is the selection. Height, weight, speed specimen is the first pro. 6'4", 218, 4.5 40. At that size, running that fast, height, weight, speed specimen all day long. Catch radius. When you're that big, you can get up a little bit. 32-inch arms to extend. It gives you all the space you need as a quarterback. The comfortability of knowing that I can just throw it up kind of anywhere in the general vicinity. We saw this once upon a time with Matthew Stafford, with Calvin Johnson, which worries me a bit because we remember the days of him forcing the football to Megatron. This is no Megatron here, so I don't think you have to worry about that. Matthew Stafford just saying, well, Kenny's open, or Kenny's double covered, or Kenny's triple covered, but he's 6'4", so I'm just going to throw it up to him and give him a shot. That's not the case here. He's not that kind of specimen and freak, but 6'4" does allow you to have a little bit of a catch radius and a margin for error at the quarterback position. And he's one of those guys that may make a quarterback feel a little bit more comfortable than he should throwing the football up for grabs. He's a long strider with deep ball potential. I did watch him run past some guys in that MAC conference. So I think he has the potential to get by some corners. If you're flat-footed, if you allow him to eat up your cushion, if he's unabated off the line of scrimmage, he's a build-up speed runner. He will run by some corners in this league, and he has the potential to get deep with those long strides. And so I think that's a little bit of a little known, not a well-kept secret with Kenny Golladay, if you will, is that I think he can get deep. On tape, you see him do it from time to time, even see him do it from the slot from time to time. But I think that's something that I think the Lions can exploit with him. Even if you want to move this guy around, I think he can win on some 9 balls down the field as a long strider. And that 4.5 40 may not scare anyone, but I'm telling you, I think he runs even faster than that when he starts getting up to top speed. Good hands. He's a guy that will catch it away from his frame. He'll catch it in traffic. That's the next pro, so we'll combine the two together. He's a guy that has really good hands. They're reliable. You can throw it to him in a tight, confined space. He'll come down with the football. He'll extend away from his frame. He'll go down low and dig it up off the turf if need be. Really good hands, catches it in traffic. Those are things you like to see from a big-bodied receiver like Kenny Golladay. And then finally, what good is it to be 6'4" if you're not a good red zone target? And that's what this guy is. He's a big red zone target that gives you the ability to throw it up high, back shoulder fade, throw it up in the end zone and allow him to go and put the nutsack on top of the helmet in the end zone. When you're 6'4" and you got 32-inch arms and you can go up and get the football, it allows you to be a red zone target. 18 touchdowns the last 2 seasons tells you all you need to know about Kenny Golladay and his ability to go and get the football and score touchdowns. So that's going to add to the Lions' ability to score in the red zone. They're a relatively small team at the receiver position. This guy's going to come in now. Marvin Jones, 6'2" guy, but this is a guy that's going to come in and instantly add some size in the red zone at the receiver position. As we go to his cons, field awareness. There are too many times where he doesn't get, and in college, there's no excuse for this. When you're by the sidelines, you need to get your feet down in bounds. There were too many times where I saw him catch the football by the sidelines and not get 8 foot down. Now, again, it's college. You only need 1 foot down. There is no excuse. At the next level, you're going to have to get 2 feet. You're going to have to drag that 2nd foot. Well, he wasn't even getting the 1st foot down. Forget about dragging the 2nd foot and getting that toe in. He didn't get the 1st foot in, and his awareness of the sidelines and where he was on the football field was atrocious. He's going to have to clean that up because, again, no one and that's a drill. They'll work on that with him. They'll clean that up. I expect him to be much better at that. But that was a little disappointing watching him on tape not be able to get some of those catches in bounds and not knowing where he was on the field and not being able to get at least 8 foot in bounds. Weight room strength doesn't match his play strength on the field. 18 reps of 2 1/4, one of the best numbers at the combine of any receiver, yet he doesn't play that way. Not in the run game, not necessarily when the football's coming to him down the field. I don't think he's that strong at the point of catch, especially on deep balls. I'd love to see him be a little bit stronger at the point of catch. I feel like he's the guy that can play at a much stronger physical, more rate than what we've seen from him on tape, especially in the run game. That really alarms me. It frustrates me because, and that's the last con, is that he's a wait and see run blocker. He's one of those guys, look, if I don't have to, I won't block you. If I feel the need to block you and it comes down to where if I block you, my guy may be able to turn a 12-yard run into a 52-yard run and a touchdown, then maybe I'll lay hands on you. But if I don't have to, I won't. And I feel like he lets and allows the defender to take the fight to him instead of him. Again, 6'4", 218, 18 reps of 2 1/4. He should be mauling these guys in the run game, and he's simply not. He's too passive aggressive as a run blocker. That's very frustrating for me. I'd love to see him be a little bit more aggressive, but that being said, In the 3rd round, 96th overall pick, Northern Illinois wide receiver Kenny Golladay for me is a double. I think he's a solid prospect, but I'm not in love with what he brings to the table. I love his measurables, but I don't love what I saw out of him necessarily, especially as a 3rd round pick. We go to the 4th round, 124th pick overall, Tennessee linebacker Jalen Reeves-Maybin is the selection. Here's a guy that is going to also come in and bolster that linebacking core that struggled a season ago and has been struggling for the last 2 seasons due to injuries, among other things. And this is a guy that is strictly, to me, a nickel linebacker that you bring in, and he's going to be able to run with tight ends and backs out of the backfield. This is the new age NFL nickel linebacker right here, the guy that can still play the run if need be, but is going to excel in turning and running and getting to the football. This is what you need in today's NFL. You need at least one guy that can do this, and even if it's only in a specialty, sub package role, you need these types of players. They are essential in today's NFL, and so this guy's going to come in and I think have an impact right away. 6 feet, 230 pounds. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on, but the athleticism is off the charts. 4.65 40 for Jalen Reeves-Maybin. This guy can run. You see it on tape. When he goes, he goes. He's decisive. He gets downhill quick, fast, and in a hurry, and he can make things happen. Closing burst is the next pro. Again, when he fires off that gun, when he shoots his gun, he is going and he gets there in a hurry. There are some times where teams are trying to set up screens. He diagnoses screen and he's there before any blocker can get out in front, and he's tearing up the running back. When he was at his best in 2015, really, there's no need to even turn on any 2016 tape for him because he was basically a non-factor in 2016. Got flagged for targeting in the first game of the season, and then ended up messing up his shoulder and missed pretty much the entire season in 2016. So you got to go back to 2015 if you're looking for some really good tape on Jalen Reeves-Maybin. And what you will find there is a guy that played the game confidently. He saw things, he read it, and he diagnosed it quickly, got to the football. That Oklahoma tape, that's textbook stuff there. He was all over the field in that game. This guy's a playmaker, and he gets to the football. He's not afraid to shoot his gun. That's the next pro. I've already said it, so I don't want to keep harping on it, but this is a guy that gets down so fast. His instincts are off the charts. His instincts are much better than that of your 1st round pick in Jarrad Davis. He sees things a lot quicker than Jarrad Davis does, and he gets downhill a lot faster. Is he as physical as Jarrad Davis? No, he's not as physical as Jarrad Davis is, but he is more he just has a more innate feel for what's going on and getting downhill and getting to the ball carrier. He's very fluid in space. He moves well. This is what's going to serve him best as a nickel linebacker. His ability to just run with guys down the field, carry tight ends, carry even some receivers down the field, to carry backs out of the backfield. This is where he's going to excel and allow him to get on the field, even if only in sub packages. High volume tackler. There were 2 consecutive seasons at Tennessee where this guy was over 100 tackles. 2014, 2015, back-to-back 100-plus tackle seasons. So this is a guy that when he gets to the football, generally gets guys on the ground. He'll miss some tackles. He'll slip off of a guy and miss a tackle here or there. But for the most part, when he's involved, guys are going down on the ground. It's not always pretty, and you can drag him. He's not a big guy. He's not a physically imposing guy. You can knock him forward and drag him along for a little bit of a ride, but you're going down for the most part when you encounter Jalen Reeves-Maybin. And finally, he's a capable blitzer, a guy that had 6 sacks in 2015. I think he can be better as a blitzer, but he does a quality job of getting in there and affecting the play. And he has some coverage ability, as I've already stated. He's a guy that can run with tight ends, running backs, and even some receivers over the slot. I saw him do that as well at Tennessee. So again, he's going to be a welcome addition to this Lions linebacking room as we go to his cons. His size, obviously 6 feet, 230 pounds, a little light in the trunks. Can he get bigger? Absolutely. Some people around NFL circles feel like he lost some weight in the injury that he sustained on his shoulder, and because he couldn't lift, he couldn't do anything physically with that injury. So he may have lost a little bit of weight, something that he's going to have to work on, gain some more weight and some more mass. And if he can still retain the athleticism while putting on another 5 to 10 pounds, that would really benefit him in staying on the field all 3 downs, because I think the Lions right now, maybe they only see him as a nickel linebacker, but I think they have bigger visions of him being a 3-down linebacker that can play right next to Jarrett Davis on the football field, even if only in a weak side linebacker capacity. So I think they feel like he's a 3-down guy, and maybe that's what they view him as right now, and they're going to try to get him to put on some weight, but his size is a problem right now because running backs and big ball carriers do drag him along. Big offensive linemen do have their way with him when they get their hands on him. So his size is definitely an issue right now. He's flat-footed at times in coverage. I think sometimes he will allow guys to eat up his cushion, and he won't move his feet until it's too late and they're already a step or two by him. I just like to see him anticipate some things, move his feet, and already be, even if you got to bail and keep something in front of you, I would rather you do that than allow a tight end to beat you up the seam because you were sitting on a hook, or you were sitting on a stop or an out, and he ends up just taking it up the field. A lot of times these tight ends and these guys in the slot have option routes, and they're playing off of you, and if they see you flat-footed, they're just going to carry that route up the field and run right by you. So I'd love to see him be moving his feet and force the tight end or whomever to stop underneath and then react to that, come up and rally to that and not give up something over the top. And then finally, this is a guy that had a shoulder injury, as I mentioned, in 2016 that really cost him all of his final season at Tennessee. So I would just want to see him stay healthy. Hopefully the shoulder is right because, again, when this guy's right, he's effective. And you may actually end up getting a steal here in the 4th round because a lot of people saw him as a guy that could have come off the board a lot sooner had he been healthy in his final year at Tennessee. In the 4th round, 124th pick overall, Tennessee linebacker Jalen Reeves-Maybin, for me, is a double. Want to see if he's able to put on the weight. Want to see if he's able to stay healthy. I think this guy easily could be a triple, but my question is the size. Can he be effective on the field all 3 downs? I'm not sure about that. I don't know if he's going to be able to put on more weight on his frame and then still keep the athleticism. Anytime I have this many questions and don't feel comfortable with the answers, that's when I stay at a comfortable place with a double. He could have easily been a triple, however, because I like a lot of the things that I saw from him on tape. As we move to your next 4th round pick, 127th overall, Toledo tight end Michael Roberts is the selection. This guy comes with NFL size right out the box. This man is equipped with NFL tight end size at 6'4", 270. He is a man. 33-inch arms to go with that size, and you have the makings of a two-way dual threat tight end, guy that can block, guy that can catch the football and make things happen. Huge hands. 11.5-inch hands. I generally don't talk about hand size because I don't care, but it does come into play when they're that big. Odell Beckham has huge hands. That's why he's so dominant in snatching the football out of the air. We all know about the catch versus the Cowboys on a Sunday night. When you have huge hands, you can do extraordinary things with the football. He's another one of these guys. If the football is anywhere near his hands, those baseball catcher's mitts that he has for hands are going to engulf the football, and he's going to come down with it. And that's what you saw from him on tape. Tremendous catch radius at 6'4" with those hands and the 33-inch arms that I referenced earlier. He's a guy that can go outside of his frame and pluck the football out of the air, which is going to lend itself to the next pro, red zone target. This man at Toledo had 16 touchdowns, not for his career, but in 2016 alone. So this is a guy that in the red zone was the favorite target of his quarterback, and he delivered time and time again. I just want you to keep this in mind. Michael Roberts only had 45 catches on the season for Toledo. 16 of them went for touchdowns. So I'm telling you, over a third of his catches on the season were touchdowns, okay? And some of them were tightly contested. Some of them were him leaping up and going outside of his frame for the football. he gives you an element and a dynamic that you've been lacking and has been inconsistent with Eric Ebron in the red zone. This is a guy that is big, that is physical, that will come down with the football in the end zone. That is a huge red zone target. 16, that was good for 5th in all of FBS a season ago. He's a willing blocker. There are some things that he's going to have to fine tune. He's going to have to get a lot better. But this is a guy that is a willing blocker. And I think he's going to get much better with proper coaching and the time that is going to be able to be spent on him learning and fine tuning his craft. He's going to end up being a whale of a blocker, I believe, because he is willing to put in the work. I could see a guy that wanted to be better, but just wasn't. And so I think you have all the makings of a guy that's going to be a hell of a two-way tight end for you at the next level. To me, I look at him as your new Brandon Pettigrew, a guy that can catch. And remember, Pettigrew had a ton of drop issues. You're not going to have that problem with Michael Roberts. As we go to his cons, needs route running work. So he struggles in the route running department. Now, when you're 6'4", 270, it really doesn't matter how crisp or how sharp your routes are, because you can use that big frame to box guys out. And I saw him do it at Toledo. There's a game that comes to mind. They were playing against Northern Illinois, as a matter of fact. And he had a nice game against them, had 2 touchdown grabs in that ball game. One a catch and run, one a out route in the end zone where he had to shield away a defender. And the guy was trying to strip the football and he just wasn't having it. So he's a guy that doesn't run the greatest routes, doesn't have to when you're 6'4", 270. Yeah, he's going to round some things off. He doesn't have the sharpness, doesn't sink his hips into the routes. So he's not coming out of breaks as clean as you would like him to. But again, you don't have to be when you're such a big target. You'll find a way to create space, or at least enough for the football to be thrown your way and to give the quarterback an inviting target. Struggles blocking in space. Now, this is the biggest con that I have for him, because as a blocker right now, he's not where he needs to be, and it's because he just struggles in space. They would move him all around, as college tight ends often do. They would send him in motion. That's another pro for him, formational flexibility. They would move him all over the place. They would send him in motion. He would be the lead blocker on plays, and he would just flat out take poor angles. He would miss, bad hand placement. He struggles out in space. When he is lined up, when he gets to square up and block a guy, when he comes off the ball in a traditional Y tight end stance and is able to come off the ball and block the guy directly in front of him, he has no problems taking care of business. It's when you ask him to go in motion, it's when you ask him to go get that reach block, it's when you ask him to be the lead blocker and he's coming and he's pulling around and he's coming back to sift block somebody. That's when he struggles. But when he is blocking the guy in front of him, whether it's pass protection or in the run game, he excels. So I know he can block. It's all about him taking proper angles. It's all about him breaking down. He'll run to a guy, but be out of control, and that guy just will run right around him because he doesn't stop and break down. Hard to stop 270 pounds from going in one direction, but that means you just need to go under control and not go and try to get there as fast as possible and then make a mistake and run by the guy. So there's some issues there that need to be cleaned up, but I have confidence that he'll be able to clean those things up at the next level. And then finally, 1 year wonder. He had 1 year of heavy production at Toledo. Okay, before the breakout season in 2016, he only had 5 touchdown grabs. The past 2 seasons prior to that. So the question is this what you're getting moving forward, or did he just have an aberration? I don't know the answer to that, but I feel comfortable that this guy is going to be a good player for you in the 4th round. And I like what I see out of him. And I'm really intrigued by Michael Roberts. And in the 4th round, 127th pick overall, Toledo tight end Michael Roberts for me is a double. I really like what I see out of Michael Roberts. And I'm anxious to see if he can put it all together, because this could easily turn into a triple type of pick down the road. We'll see what they get out of him initially and what they get out of him moving forward down the line as we go to the 5th round, 165th pick overall. San Diego cornerback Jamal Agnew is the selection. Speed! is the first pro, 4.37 40. This guy can pick him up and put him down. Lit it up at the San Diego Pro Day, enough to the point where he was not on NFL radars at that point and ended up getting selected in the 5th round by the Detroit Lions. And so to me, this is a really good story. I'm rooting for this guy because I like what I saw on tape from him. Explosive plant and drive. He's one of those guys that when he sticks his foot in the ground and is coming back towards the football, you better look out because he comes down with a full head of steam. Even in the run game, when he's looking to tackle, he's coming down aggressively. This is a guy that will come down and hit you. This is a guy that will come down, make plays on the football. Left San Diego as the school's leading pass breakup defender. Had 11 career interceptions, so the guy has tremendous ball skills. There are a number of plays where he literally plucked the football out of the air, coming back downhill. So that plant and drive and acceleration that he has coming back to the football, the ball skills, his willingness to tackle, all of these things I love and I saw on full display when watching Jamal Agnew. It also brings a little bit of special teams value. Was a big punt return guy for San Diego. Had a touchdown in that realm, and he's a guy that can give you some value there if you need it in the returns game. So there's a lot to like here. He's physical at the point of catch. I watched him against another future NFL player in Eric Saubert, who was selected in the 7th round by the Atlanta Falcons. Drake, tight end that played in his conference. And that guy's 6'5", 246 pounds, and he's leaping up, climbing the ladder, raking at the arms, and knocking the football away. This guy's extremely physical at the point of catch. So he's coming back, he's making plays on the football, he's knocking footballs away, he's raking at the arms, he's very aggressive. I love all those things about Jamal Agnew as we go from his pros to his cons. His size. 5'10", 185 pounds, not generally what you're looking for in an NFL corner, but I have no doubts in my mind that this guy can kick inside and play some nickel corner for you day one, no questions asked. Even though he didn't do much of that at San Diego, he did play in the slot, so there is some versatility there, and I don't think he's going to make the transition seamlessly. They would blitz him from the slot, thought he was a solid blitzer, so there's enough footage there and tape that I don't feel that worried about him kicking inside, because at 5'10", 185, I don't think he's going to be able to survive out wide. And that's why a lot of teams weren't looking at him. But make no mistake about it, I think he can get it done. But the size is an issue for some teams. I'm a big firm believer in size is only a problem if you make it. I think this is a guy that has overcome that whole dynamic his entire life. And part of the reason why I'm rooting for him. Better in off than in press coverage. He's a guy that struggled to me in press coverage. He would open up his hips too fast. A lot of times, even when he wouldn't put his hands on the receiver, if they gave him a stutter to the outside, he would open up his hips too soon, giving up the inside. So he's a guy that I felt like was much more comfortable playing off, seeing what the receiver was doing, seeing what the quarterback was doing, and then reacting to that. So no doubt that he can carry the long distance speed, but I feel like he plays a lot better in technique when he's off instead of up in press coverage. And then finally, level of competition. He played in the Pioneer Conference in FCS, did not play in the FBS, so level of competition wasn't great. He dominated that level of competition, and that's what you're supposed to do. I'm not going to beat him up for that, but again, now you're stepping up to another level. Bigger, faster, stronger athletes across from you, quarterbacks that throw with better anticipation, quarterbacks that have stronger arms, that are able to read defenses and cornerbacks a lot better, manipulate guys better. So we'll see how he makes that transition from San Diego in the Pioneer Conference to the NFL. But one thing's for sure, this guy has enough talent to get it done at the next level, and you can never have enough corners. And so in the 5th round, 165th pick overall, San Diego cornerback Jamal Agnew for me is a double as we move on to the 6th round with this Lions draft. And you got 2 6-rounders, the first of which 205th pick overall, Arkansas defensive lineman Jeremiah Ledbetter is the selection. 6'3", 280 pounds. He's got solid length, 34-inch arms. Good arm extension. So those arms come into play. I think his arm extension is top notch. uses that arm extension to really give himself an opportunity to get the advantage on an offensive lineman and kind of control the action from time to time. Gets off the snap quickly with violence. He doesn't get off the snap quickly and win with a quick inside swim or something of that nature, which you would love him to do. But he does get off the snap and does shock that offensive lineman initially and force him backwards a couple of steps. But usually that offensive lineman is able to bow his back, anchor down, and stop that movement. And so even though he gets off the snap with initial burst and power, it doesn't sustain itself. And so it doesn't manifest into anything. But nonetheless, he does get off the snap initially with a little bit of violence and quickness. He can be stopped at the point of attack. Those arms and that length and that extension of those arms gives him an opportunity to be stopped at the point of attack. Does he stack and shed the way I would like him to? Absolutely not. We'll get to that a little bit later on. But one thing's for sure, Final Pro, high motor, high energy guy. You'll find him hustling on each and every single snap. I can vouch for that, and I love guys that give maximum effort, and that's what you get out of Jeremiah Ledbetter on most snaps. You go from those pros to his cons. He's a tweener. No true, real position. They played him at defensive end. They played him inside, but at 280 pounds, I just didn't see a guy that won on the edge. He didn't have any pass rush juice whatsoever. No moves, no nothing. And as a defensive tackle, I just didn't think he had an impact on the game at all. Double teams absolutely move him. Hell, big physical interior offensive lineman scoop this guy and move him out of the way. And so I thought he was a low impact player at Arkansas. And, you know, maybe I watched the wrong games, but I just didn't feel like this was a guy. And that explains a 6th round pick. I mean, it's not like this guy went in the 3rd round and I just didn't see it. He's in the 6th round for a reason. He competes, and maybe if he puts on more weight, he'll be suited to just kick inside, because I think he's more naturally a defensive tackle than he is a defensive end. He's not going to give you any value at defensive end. I think all of his value is inside, but at 280 pounds, you're not going to be able to get it done consistently. He's going to have to put on more weight. The next con is he's tossed around in the run game. I mean, I watched this guy uprooted 2 gaps at times in the run game, just being scooped up and moved out of the way, and that's unacceptable as a interior defensive lineman. And lastly, no pass rush juice. I've already mentioned that, so I'm not going to harp on it. You just get nothing from him in the form of getting after the quarterback as a defensive end. That's why I feel like he's better suited to kick inside as a defensive tackle, but he's going to have to put on some weight, which worries me as a tweener right now. I just don't see a true position for him unless he's going to put on weight, which I think the Lions made this selection in hopes of being able to put weight on him. I think the intention is draft him, get him up to 290, and you have yourself a defensive lineman on the interior of that D-line. In the 6th round, 205th pick overall, Arkansas defensive lineman Jeremiah Ledbetter for me is another double. Don't love this pick, to be honest with you, but we'll see if you get anything out of it and if he makes your roster as we move forward to the next 6th round pick. And this is a guy that I fully expect to make your roster. 6th round, 215th pick overall, Miami quarterback Brad Kaya is the selection. Was wondering when he would come off the board. I was hearing some people talk about this guy coming off as early as the 4th round. Remember, this was a guy that we were talking about as the #1 overall pick before the college football season started. And I think a lot of his deficiencies really started to show in 2016, and a lot of people soured on him to the point where he's a 6th round pick. I think he is a quality NFL backup. That's exactly why you selected him. He could turn out to be more for you if Matthew Stafford's contract situation isn't resolved. I don't anticipate Stafford going anywhere. To me, he's a Lion for life. And Brad Kaya is the perfect backup quarterback behind him. If anything should happen to Stafford, which he's been really durable, it's crazy to say that, because remember, his first couple of years, we thought Stafford was going to be one of these injury-prone quarterbacks that could never stay healthy. He hasn't been hurt, it seems like, since the 2nd year of his career, but you need a quality backup in this league. You just never know when your quarterback's going to have to miss, 2 to 4 weeks. And a guy like Brad Kaya, I think, could come in and steady the ship. You drafted Jake Rudock last year. That was a stopgap backup situation. I think Brad Kaya is going to not only come in and make this roster, but unseat Jake Rudock as the second quarterback on this roster and be your backup quarterback in Detroit for many years to come. I'm not going to break Brad Kaya down. I've already done that in the Draft Prospects 101 series. So if you're looking for a thorough breakdown of him and some other prospects I was able to get to before the draft, that's where you need to go. But I will tell you, you got yourself a quality backup quarterback here in the 6th round, 215th pick overall. Miami quarterback Brad Kaya for me is a double. Played in a pro-style offense at Miami. He's a solid game manager. You saw it on tape. That's the way I evaluated him. And I think he's the perfect quintessential NFL backup. And trust me, every team needs a quality backup quarterback. Brad Kaya is exactly that. You go to your final pick in this draft, 7th round, 250th pick overall. Eastern Michigan edge rusher Pat O'Connor is the pick. 6'5", 277 pounds. Right there, that's our first pro. His size, that's good NFL defensive end size. Stout at the point of attack. He'll stand up to the offensive tackle, to the tight end in the run game. May not make the play, but he'll do his job to disrupt some things. And sometimes he'll win and get in the backfield and make plays and disrupt some things. High motor. This is a guy that gives you everything he's got on every single snap. So I love that about him. The tank does run empty, and you got to get him out of there. But while he's on the field, he is going to burn up every bit of energy that he has, giving you everything he's got. Goes after the football. I love this. Is probably my favorite thing, trait, attribute about Pat O'Connor is that when he goes and hits the quarterback, he's not content nor satisfied with just sacking the quarterback. He wants the football. He's looking for that strip. And if you're not careful, if you're careless with the football, he's going to get that football out. And I love that about Pat O'Connor. 5 strips in 2016 alone, 7 for his career at Eastern Michigan, and 7, over the last 2 seasons at Eastern Michigan. So this is a guy that gets after the quarterback, but more importantly, gets the football out when he gets after the quarterback. He has a little hand usage. That's the next pro. It's not where it needs to be as effective as it could be, but it's there, it exists, and he shows the ability to use his hands. There's a play late in the game versus Wyoming. I think Josh Allen's going to be the #1 pick in the 2017 or 2018 NFL draft. Wyoming quarterback. Late in the game, they got a chance to put this game away, and Pat O'Connor beats the left tackle with the hand usage on the play where he uses his hands quickly to disengage, snatch, rip, and get up to the quarterback and hits the quarterback, Josh Allen, tries to knock the football out. Allen's able to cover it up, but he goes down, and that helped them ice that game late against Wyoming, a team that no one really expected them to beat early in the season. So got a little hand usage. I think he can be better at it, but he shows the ability to use his hands. That's always a big coup for a pass rusher coming from college football, and can be disruptive around the line of scrimmage as a final pro. 28.5 tackles for loss in his last 2 seasons. It was very effective at disrupting some things around the line of scrimmage. And so that's something that also, I think, caught the eye of the Detroit Lions. Look, in your backyard, these are the type of guys you take in the 7th round. The guy that's right up the street. You got an area scout that's right there that can tell you all about him. These are the kind of guys you scoop up in the final round. I love this selection. As we get to his cons, he's a monotone pass rusher. You're not getting a spin. You're not getting hard outside, back inside. You're not getting, dip and rip or anything cute. It's just a lot of, hey, let's see if I can win around the edge. Hey, let's see if I can bull rush. If those don't work, you got me. And so he's a very monotone pass rusher. I'd love to see him mix it up a little bit, but he just looks like he hasn't been taught to mix it up. And so we'll see if that can happen for him at the next level. Doesn't stack and shed blocks enough for me. I think he can stack guys. I don't see him shedding as often as I would like. I want to see him get involved in tackles a little bit more often. There's too many times where guys run by him and he doesn't extend an arm or disengage and get involved in the play. That running back just runs right by him because he's engaged and he doesn't disengage. And then finally, a shoulder injury basically cost him all of his 2015 season. And so he came and played well, had his best season of his career in 2016. He rebounded, but it's in the Carfax report, just thought I should mention it. And so hopefully that shoulder injury is behind Pat O'Connor and it gives him the best opportunity to make this Lions roster. In the 7th round, 250th pick overall, Eastern Michigan edge rusher Pat O'Connor for me is a double to round out this very quality Detroit Lions 2017 NFL draft. As we get to the scoring of this draft, you get a home run in the 1st round, you get a triple in the 2nd round, and then the entire rest of the draft doubles, 7 doubles to be exact, which nets you 5 doubles bonuses throughout. So you put all of that together, you tally it up, it's a 31. You divide by the selections made by the Lions in this draft, 9, and you get a 3.44 triple for the Detroit Lions in the 2017 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here on the Louie T Network. Come back and join me as I continue to break down anything. And now, in the National Football League, I just got one question for you. Who's next?